Chima RDM. This book is based on actual events, from survival to legacy. Table of contents. Dedication. Maka ko Einar Preface. 2. Introduction. Page 3. Table of contents. 4. Part Ia. The Pitfalls. Chapter 1. Starting Small. Chapter 2. Lessons from the Streets. Chapter 3. Hard Work as Currency. Chapter 4. The Lure of Shortcuts. Chapter 5. Bad Credit, Bad Chains. Chapter 6. Buying a House Too Early. Chapter 7. The Expensive Car Trap. Chapter 8. The Meaningless Degree. Chapter 9. Bad Marriage and Financial Chaos. Chapter 10. No Will or Life Insurance. Chapter 11. Escaping the Cycle. Chapter 12. From Pitfalls to Pillars. Chapter 13. The Foundation of Freedom. Chapter 14. Protecting Your Tomorrow. Chapter 15. Building the Engine of Income. Chapter 16. The Pillars of All Pillars. Dedication. To my wife, who believed in me when I had nothing, and whose love has guided me forward. To my children, whose unconditional love gives meaning to every sacrifice and fuels the legacy I am building. To my father, who taught me the dignity of work and the discipline of effort. To my mother, who showed me that the world can still be a better place, even in its brokenness. To my sister and brother, my companions through life's journey, who remind me that family is strength. And to my friends in Africa, Europe, and America, who invested in me, encouraged me, and lifted me in moments when I could not stand alone. To my Aunt Helene, my Uncle Barry, and my dear friend Mignon, who left us too soon, but whose memory still inspires me. This book is for you all. Preface. This is not a book written from the balcony of a yacht or from the comfort of a mansion. I am not a millionaire telling you how easy it is to make money. I am an immigrant who came to America with dreams bigger than my pocket, who started with nothing and often less than nothing. When I arrived, I worked 20 hours weekly as a mail clerk at my community college, earning $300 every 2 weeks. I thought I'd made it. But the moment I moved into my apartment, the numbers no longer increased. Rent swallowed my paycheck, food took what was left, and I discovered what it meant to start small. I wrote this book because I know what it feels like to be hungry, homeless, and pressured to look successful when you can barely survive. I have seen the temptation to buy a car you can't afford, sign contracts you don't understand, and take shortcuts that promise wealth but deliver chains. I also know how to resist that pressure, fail, get back up, and survive long enough to see growth. This book is not about theory. It is about survival, mistakes, lessons, and the pillars that can help you build a future worth living. I am writing for every immigrant who feels invisible, every worker who feels stuck, and every dreamer who feels crushed by reality. I want you to know that starting small is not a curse. It is training. It builds resilience, faith, and vision. It strips away illusions and prepares you for the weight of real success. You will not find quick fixes in these pages. What you will find are truths about money, mindset, and survival. Truths that, if you live them, can transform your story. This book is not just about how I survived. It is about building, avoiding the traps, embracing the pillars, and moving from survival to legacy. Chapter 1. Starting Small Chapter. Do not despise the days of small beginnings. When I arrived in America, my first job was working in the mailroom of my community college. I was excited. This was my first job ever, and I was proud of myself. I made $300 every 2 weeks for about 20 hours of work. It wasn't much, but it felt like proof that I was on my way. I thought, this is America, and I've started working. Soon things will get better. But the pride wore off quickly. Reality hit me like a cold wave when I got my first apartment. It was $500. A fortune back in the days. Food, electricity, and water were not even included. That $300 vanished before the month even began. Rent alone swallowed most of it. By the time I covered a few groceries and basic expenses, I was broke again. I couldn't buy clothes, go out, or enjoy life as I thought I would when I first imagined America. Meanwhile, my neighbor, an Ivorian student, was driving a Jaguar and living in a well-furnished apartment. He went out often, invariably well-dressed, always looking successful. And there I was, struggling to stretch my $300, eating the same weekly meals, yes, rice and chicken in America, with no car, no dates, and no social life. I remember the embarrassment of thinking about dating. How could I ask a girl when I didn't have a car? Imagine asking her to pick me up, drive me to the date, and then arriving at the restaurant, staring at the cheapest options while smiling. It would be uncomfortable. The whole situation was awkward. The humiliation of that thought kept me isolated. I stayed home while my peers seemed to live the dream. I was bored out of my mind. I didn't have a choice because I didn't have money. That truth woke me up to this day. Your options are not better than the zeros in your bank account. I would tirelessly make sure not to find myself in that situation again. The pressure to look successful is real, especially for immigrants. We come from places where your reputation is tied to how you appear. Yes, the more successful you look, the more success you have, the more people invite you to birthdays, weddings, and baby showers. You guessed it. I was barely asked to one of those. People back home imagine that as soon as you land in America, you're living like a king. They don't know the process. They don't understand the pressure. They know just one sentence. He lives in America. You feel the weight of those expectations, and if you're not careful, you start making decisions to prove an image instead of building a future. I forgot. We all take pictures in fancy restaurants with designer suits, bags, and outfits. It is a part of that image. Let's get back on track. I could have gone into debt to match my neighbor. I could have signed up for credit I couldn't afford, bought a flashy car, furnished an apartment to look successful. But looking back, I realized that would have been a trap. Debt early on would have locked me into slavery before I even had a chance to breathe. Starting small, though painful, turned out to be an advantage. I built resilience. Hunger couldn't break me. Rent being late couldn't hurt me. Lights being cut off couldn't faze me anymore. Even when I ended up homeless, nothing could stop me because I had already trained myself to endure. Starting small also built faith. You have no money to carry your status, no friends to hype you up. Only you, and a vision. A vision of a better life, a better you, and better circumstances. I sometimes believed with nothing but a whisper of hope that if I kept walking, something better awaited me. The slide into homelessness. Then came the call that changed everything. I was in school when I was told I could no longer pay tuition. Without enrollment, I lost my right to work on campus. Like that, I went from being a student with a job to a young man with no income and no safety net. The lights in my apartment were next to be cut off. I remember holding a cold cup of coffee, wishing to warm it, and realizing I couldn't. I took cold showers daily and lived in darkness every night. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd find money somehow to cover rent. But days passed, and nothing changed. Then came the knock at the door. The police. They told me I had 20 minutes to leave. Their words were sharp, almost mechanical, like I wasn't even a person, just another eviction to process. I felt hollow, like I was standing alone against America, though it was just me and the landlord. I desperately called my family back home, classmates, and anyone I thought might help. But my parents overseas couldn't send money, and my classmates didn't want the headache. The calls ended with silence, and so I became homeless. At first, a friend took me in for a couple of weeks. Then he left to join the army. After that, an acquaintance from the Ivory Coast, yes, again, let me crash at his place in the hood since he moved out to a better place with his soon-to-be wife. What I saw there left an impression on me. Drugs, misery, and a sense of hopelessness hanging in the air. We didn't have cable. The only channel working was the Crime TV channel, which was probably just a coincidence. One day, a guy pulled me aside. He said he felt for me and offered me a way out, or at least what he thought was one. He wanted to front me drugs to sell, telling me I could keep part of the profits. For a moment, I paused. I thought about the hunger, the cold showers, the shame of eviction. But then I thought about the door that would open in my life. I imagined myself being arrested, put in jail, or being a junkie. I closed my eyes, I shook my head, and I refused. It was one of the most complex decisions I made, not because I wanted that life, but because when you are desperate, even poison can look like medicine. Faith and resilience became my foundation. They kept me moving when logic said I should quit or temptation came knocking. They allowed me to keep my head up, even when my stomach was empty. They gave me the courage to keep going through it all. Artie's Corner. What stage are you in right now? Are you starting small, frustrated by how little you have, or tempted to fake success? Remember, starting small is not a curse. It is training. Ask yourself, what am I building in myself today? Is it resilience or debt? Chapter 2. Lessons from the Streets. Hardship is the school where resilience is taught. There are lessons you can learn from a classroom, but there are others you only know when life throws you into the streets. For me, homelessness became my teacher. I still remember the sharp burn of hunger. There were days when I had nothing to eat, my stomach twisted into knots, and even standing up felt like dragging a mountain. To survive, I learned tricks. Sometimes, I would buy $1 drink from a gas station or a big soda and sip it slowly all day. I wasn't drinking it for the taste. It filled the emptiness in my stomach just enough to keep me moving. That drink wasn't food, but it felt like life support. There were times when survival meant swallowing my pride. I would call on my friends and ask them, almost whispering with shame, if they could order me a pizza. And when that pizza arrived, it was more than food. It was a banquet. I would eat slice after slice like it was the best meal of my life, and sometimes I stretched it for 2 days. One friend, a wealthy Saudi student I met in language school, once ordered me 2 large Papa John's pizzas. For him, it was nothing, but it was a royal feast for me. That night I ate until my body hurt, and I smiled through tears of gratitude. To this day, I remember that kind gesture. Indeed, we don't forget how people made us feel. But hunger doesn't always let you wait for kindness. There were days when I broke. I remember standing in a corner store on 89th Street in May, lightheaded from not eating, my stomach growling so loud I thought the cashier could hear it. I stared at the shelves, locked on a row of candy bars. That Snickers wasn't candy. To me, it was survival. My hands trembled as I slipped it into my pocket. My heart raced as I walked out, not proud, not victorious, but desperate. Hunger is louder than dignity. And that day, it won. I felt bad. All the dreams I had of myself back home, becoming an engineer, making money, helping people, changing my family trajectory, that dream stopped with that chocolate bar. My situation saddened me. Sometimes I felt like God had forgotten about me. I had no family, no car, no money, and was facing eviction that day. How would I get out of this situation? Did I come all the way here to fail? The hardest memory came after 3 days without food. My whole body was weak, my mind foggy, and even walking felt like punishment. A relative back home had sent me $50, and that money meant salvation. I set foot in the money transfer store, nearly an hour's walk away. Each step felt like dragging chains. My legs were heavy, my stomach hollow. But the thought of finally eating kept me moving. By the time I arrived, the metal shutters were already down. The store had closed. I stood there in disbelief, staring at the locked doors as if they would magically open. Anger rose in my chest, mixed with exhaustion. My stomach screamed, but there was nothing I could do. I turned back and walked the same hour home in the dark, frustrated, humiliated, and still hungry. That night, the world felt crueler than ever. But the next day, I made the same walk again. This time, somehow, it was easier. Maybe hope lightened my steps. Maybe my body had already accepted the suffering. It felt like gold when I finally got that $50. I walked back with food in my mind and relief in my heart, and for the first time in days, I felt human again. Eventually, I scraped enough together to buy a car, a Jaguar S-Type 2006 from a kind Iranian friend who gave me a break on the payments. That car became more than transportation. It became my home. At night, I curled up in the back seat, cramped and cold, while inside the nearby apartments, people laughed, cooked dinner, and enjoyed life. I could see their lights through my window. I could hear the clatter of dishes and the sound of television shows. And there I was, sitting in silence, invisible, hoping nobody noticed me. Hygiene became another battlefield. Living in a car meant showers were rare. I sometimes went a week without bathing. My clothes smelled of sweat, and I tried to cover them with cologne as if that could mask the truth. One day, my manager called me into his office. "People are complaining that you smell," he said flatly. I sat there in silence, ashamed, my face burning. That moment changed me. From then on, I treated hygiene as a non-negotiable. Even when I had nothing, I found ways to stay clean. I bought cologne like other people bought shirts. Poverty had already stripped me of so much, I refused to let it take my self-respect too. My days off the clock were long. When I got off my gig, I would drive around and wait for the night to rest. It was the only time I felt safe to nap and relax. I was always tired and moody from being drained by my situation. I felt like I was not getting enough rest. Sometimes I called back home to hear from them. That was the only time I would log off from the anxiety of my life. I would smile, laugh, and tell jokes. I had friends whom I met when I was in school in America. I reached out for help. For some, I was a burden they did not want to deal with. I did it to myself for others, and I had to face consequences. I lost many of them during that period. It used to hurt through my bones that people I used to laugh with would ignore me and my situation. This hurt built me up. From that situation, I no longer cared about what people thought if it was not making me a cent. My mind started to shift. The streets taught me more than any classroom ever could. They taught me how to endure when I had nothing, keep my head up when the world wanted me to bow it, and find strength in places I didn't know existed. Homelessness stripped me down, but it also built me back up. When you have walked an hour on an empty stomach only to find the store closed, or slept in the back of a Jaguar because you had nowhere else to go, nothing in life can intimidate you the same way again. Artie's Corner. Think of the hardest season in your life. Instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What did this season teach me that nothing else could?" The streets may have taken your comfort, but did they also give you resilience? Chapter 3. Currency Hard Work. Execution is louder than excuses. When you have nothing, sometimes the only currency you can trade with is your work. That became my reality. I remember one particular morning at my job. 3 people in my department had called in sick. The supervisor looked worried, and the rest of the team groaned as soon as they heard the news. The mood shifted immediately. Complaints, eye rolls, and whispers of, "Why do I have to do their work?" filled the room. But for me, it didn't matter. Work was work. I wasn't there to count how many boxes someone else carried. I was there to prove that nothing could break me, so I got to it. From 7 a.m. until 2 p.m., I was moving nonstop and unloading 20 heavy cases from the truck, hauling them to the floor, breaking down boxes, cleaning the back room, and restocking the shelves. My arms burned, sweat soaked through my shirt, and my back ached. But I didn't complain. I executed. The contrast was sharp. While I worked, I could hear people in other departments grumbling when someone called in. "Why do we always have to pick up the slack? This isn't fair." They drag their feet, moving slowly, letting their frustration dictate their pace. But me? I had no room for excuses. Every shift was an opportunity to sharpen myself, turn labor into discipline, and show that my worth couldn't be measured in complaints but in what I delivered. Hard work became my weapon. It was the only thing I had control over. I didn't have money, connections, or status, but I could outwork anyone in the room. And every time I executed without hesitation, I built a reputation even if nobody said it out loud. People began to notice that I was the one who showed up, pushed through, and didn't flinch when things got hard. Looking back, I realized that this became my unspoken currency. While others wasted energy fighting battles with excuses, I was investing mine into action. And action compounds over time. It doesn't give immediate results, but plants seeds that open doors later. When you live in a situation you dislike, you must make it a mission to change it. Being locked in requires tenacity to change something. If you don't have it, you won't move mountains. Artie's Corner. Think about the last time life asked you to do more than you felt like doing. Did you answer with excuses or execution? Remember, excuses pay nothing. Execution, on the other hand, builds a currency that eventually buys opportunity. Chapter 4. The Lure of Shortcuts. Fast money often leaves faster than it came. Every promise of quick success feels like water to a thirsty man when you are broke. I wasn't blind to that. I wanted more, faster, and there were plenty of people ready to sell me the illusion. I remember sitting in church one Sunday when a man approached me after the service. His face carried excitement, like he had just discovered gold. "Brother," he said, "there's this scooter company. I invested, and the money is multiplying. You should join. It's only $900, but it will change your life." $900. At that time, I barely had enough to cover rent or gas. But the way he spoke, the confidence in his voice, made me pause. For a moment, I imagined it. What if I found a shortcut? What if I could skip the years of struggle and finally breathe? But something in me resisted. Maybe it was the memory of hunger. Perhaps it was the pain of watching money slip through my hands too many times before. I told him no. Weeks later, the company folded. People lost everything. I lost nothing. That moment also opened my eyes to something more profound. Attending church was comforting. It gave me hope when I had nothing. But I also saw how easy it was to get blinded by waiting for miracles while ignoring responsibility. I watched people pray for wealth but refuse to budget. I saw people fast and shout for blessings but skip showing up to their jobs on time. Faith is powerful, but faith without discipline is an illusion. You can't pray your way out of financial habits you keep repeating. You can't shout debt away on Sunday and swipe your credit card recklessly on Monday. That man who pitched me the scooter company wasn't just selling a scam. He was selling it in the language of faith. Brother, God is opening doors. And I understood then that real doors don't open unless you first walk toward them. God multiplies what you give him, but if you give nothing, he multiplies nothing. So yes, going to church comforted me. But it also reminded me that miracles don't replace discipline. Hope without action keeps you stuck. And it wasn't only in the church. Outside, trading groups were popping up, friends whispering about signals, Forex chat rooms promising guaranteed returns, crypto clubs where everyone posted screenshots of massive gains. This is the future, they said. If you don't get in now, you'll regret it. The pressure was real. When you see others flashing what looks like success, part of you feels like you're missing out. I watched friends throw in their paychecks, chasing riches they didn't understand. For a few weeks, they bragged about profits, but soon silence fell. Money evaporated. Some lost rent. Some have maxed out credit cards. I realized then that shortcuts are not free. They come with chains. They look like freedom, but lock you in deeper than poverty. Every time I faced one of these offers, I reminded myself, I had already survived the streets. I knew what it meant to fight for every dollar. If I had to choose between fake wealth today or real wealth tomorrow, I would select tomorrow, even if it meant suffering longer. And here's the truth. Shortcuts don't just rob you of money, they rob you of discipline. And without discipline, no wealth can last. Koi, Artie's Corner. When an opportunity promises fast money, pause and ask yourself, is this building me or is it blinding me? Wealth built slowly grows roots. Wealth grabbed too quickly blows away with the wind. Chapter 5. Bad credit, bad chains. Debt used wisely is a tool. Debt used blindly is a trap. Nobody taught me about credit when I came to America. Back home, you either had money or you didn't. No invisible score followed you, deciding whether you could buy a car, rent an apartment, or open a business. In America, I learned that credit wasn't just a number. It is a system that could lift or choke you. I remember walking into the dealership excited to get my first car. The salesman smiled widely, speaking fast about how easy it would be to drive away today. But when the papers came, reality hit me. The only loan I qualified for had an interest rate of 29%. 29. It didn't matter that the car wasn't worth the price. I was desperate. I signed. Every month, I watched my paycheck vanish into that car payment. The more I paid, the more I realized I was stuck. It felt like filling a bucket with a hole at the bottom. I wasn't buying freedom. I was buying chains. That car didn't give me leverage. It gave me stress, late fees, and the reminder that the system wasn't built for people like me to win. Meanwhile, I saw the difference with people around me. Friends with good credit walked into banks and got approved for lines of credit. They bought cars with single-digit interest. Some even opened small businesses with loans that gave them leverage. I wasn't jealous. I was angry at myself for not knowing better. Credit wasn't about being flashy. It was about access. And because I didn't have it, the doors stayed closed. There was a period when my head was full of ideas. I sketched out business plans and thought about how to start something that would feed me and grow into a legacy. In America, opportunities for first-time entrepreneurs, loans, grants, and programs are designed to give you a shot. I remember sitting at my desk one night reading about small business loans for first-timers thinking, this is it. This could change everything. But the same wall crashed again on my credit when I applied and was denied every time. It didn't matter that I had a plan or was willing to work. Because my personal credit was bad, the system didn't see my potential. It only saw my risk. That's when I learned one of the harshest lessons. Opportunity without discipline is just a dream. The doors were there, but I didn't have the keys. My financial mistakes, late payments, bad loans, and desperate decisions followed me like shadows, whispering no every time I tried to step forward. I realized then that financial discipline and opportunity walk hand in hand. You can have all the ideas in the world, but the system will block you if you don't discipline your money. The difference between me and those who got approved wasn't intelligence or preparation. They had managed their credit. I hadn't. And because of that, they could fund their vision while I was still hustling to survive. Bad credit doesn't just cost you money, it costs you opportunities. It locks you out of the system. It forces you to pay more for less, keeping you poor even when working hard. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't careless. But the chains of bad credit held me down all the same. That was when I realized credit is not just about survival, but freedom. The people with good credit weren't more intelligent than I was. They just knew the game's rules. And in America, You pay the penalty if you don't learn the rules. Artie's Corner. How is your credit shaping your future right now? Are you building a score that opens doors or carrying chains that keep them locked? Remember, credit is not about looking rich. It's about creating freedom. Chapter 6. Buying a house too early. A house bought at the wrong time is not an asset. It is a liability dressed as a dream. In America, owning a house is often the ultimate sign that you've made it. For immigrants, especially, the pressure is heavy. People back home expect you to show progress, and nothing screams success louder than posting a picture in front of your new home. I had a friend who fell into that trap. He didn't have a steady income but had faith, and people around him hyped him up. "Go for it," they said. "God will provide." He believed them. He signed the papers and moved into an overpriced house that, on the outside, looked like an achievement. At first, it was all smiles. Pictures on social media, friends congratulating him, family back home, proud of his accomplishments. But reality is heavier than congratulations. Mortgage payments don't care about hype. Within 3 years, he was in foreclosure. The same house that once made him look successful became the weight that crushed him. Watching him struggle taught me something important. A house is not proof of success or readiness. A mortgage is not just about today. It's about the next 30 years. Without a stable income, financial discipline, and savings to cushion the hard times, that dream house quickly becomes a nightmare. And the truth is, in our community, many rush into homeownership not because they are ready, but because they are pressured. They want to silence the voices back home that ask, "Have you bought a house yet?" They want to look like they are living the dream, even if the dream is slowly bleeding them dry. I learned to respect timing. There's no shame in renting while you build your foundation. There's no shame in waiting until your income and credit are solid and your savings are enough to protect you from surprises. Rushing into homeownership without preparation is like jumping into a deep river without knowing how to swim. You may look brave, but the water will drown you. Artie's Corner. Are you chasing a house to look successful, or are you preparing for a home you can truly afford? Remember, not the keys in your hand that matter, but the stability under your feet. Chapter 7. The Expensive Car Trap. A car should take you places, not take your future. There's something about a shiny car that makes you feel like you've arrived. That car was a Jaguar S-Type 2006. Sleek design, leather seats, smooth engine, the kind of car that turned heads. When I first got it, I felt like I was stepping into the image of success I had always dreamed of. I bought it from a friend, an Iranian guy who worked with me. He was generous enough to lower the payments and work with my situation. To me, it was a deal I couldn't pass up. For once, I thought, I had something that made me look like I belonged in America. But the truth is, that Jaguar didn't carry me to success. It took me deeper into struggle. At night, when other people drove their cars home and parked in their garages, I parked mine in the back of apartment complexes and slept inside it. My dream car became my bed. The leather seats that once made me feel proud now stuck to my skin as I tossed and turned, trying to find a less painful position. Through the foggy windows, I watched families cooking dinner, laughing together, living the life I wanted but couldn't afford. My Jaguar was parked outside their happiness while I was trapped inside its silence. The irony was cruel. The car I thought would elevate me became the symbol of my lowest point. It gave me pride on the outside but shame on the inside. And it wasn't just about the car. It was about the money it drained. Insurance, gas, repairs, and payments. Every dollar I spent keeping that Jaguar alive was a dollar I couldn't use to build a factual foundation. Looking back, I realized I wasn't just paying for a car, I was paying for an illusion. I've seen many others fall into the same trap, buying cars to prove something to the world, flashing keys, posting pictures, and living on monthly payments that slowly choke their future. A car isn't an asset, it's a liability. Unless it makes you money, it's just taking money from you. The Jaguar taught me that lesson the hard way. It taught me that looking successful isn't the same as being successful. It reminded me that pride is too expensive for someone trying to build a legacy. Artie's Corner. What does your car say about you? Is it a tool helping you move forward, or is it a trap holding you back? Never let pride put you in a vehicle that drives your future into debt. Chapter 8. The Meaningless Degree. Education without purpose is debt disguised as progress. But education with strategy is freedom in disguise. In our community, school is sacred. Back home, families sacrifice everything so their children can attend university. Education is the golden ticket to the path out of poverty, guaranteeing a better life. And in America, the pressure to get a degree is even heavier. Every immigrant parent dreams of saying, "My son, my daughter graduated from college." But I started to notice something troubling. I saw friends enrolling in programs not because they had a clear vision, but because they felt pressured. They chose degrees that sounded good, not ones that matched their strengths or the job market. They borrowed tens of thousands of dollars, thinking the degree alone would open doors. I remember one friend in particular. He was passionate about technology, but ended up majoring in something completely unrelated because that's what his family encouraged. He took out student loans, semester after semester, watching the debt pile up. By the time he graduated, the job market had no demand for his field. He was stuck with a diploma he couldn't use and bills he couldn't escape. The degree that was supposed to lift him became the weight that dragged him down. And he wasn't alone. I saw people with master's degrees working in retail and people with bachelor's degrees serving tables. The student loan collectors didn't care about their struggles. The payment was due every month, and the debt grew like a shadow that never left. But here's the truth. The answer isn't to throw away education. It's about choosing it strategically. A degree, or even better, a professional certification or trade, can change everything if aligned with a clear purpose. Too many immigrants work 60 to 70 hours a week at jobs that break their backs but never build their futures. They talk about starting businesses but stay stuck without a foundation or skill set to pay the bills. Education, when done with intention, is that foundation. It allows you to make a living that doesn't kill you and stabilizes your life while you build bigger dreams. I realize that education should not be about status. It should be about survival and growth. Academic degrees, trade schools, apprenticeships, certifications, all of these can be tools. The key is to pick the one that puts food on the table, pays the rent, and frees your mind from constant financial stress. That's the kind of education that empowers you to then take risks in business. So, yes, meaningless degrees are dangerous, but purposeful education, whether academic or professional, is power. It's the difference between working yourself to death to survive and working smart enough to create room for a future. I used to work 60 hours a week to make rent. It was not fun. It was terrible. Next to me, I saw people with certification make $10 more than I. I understood that education is leverage. You get more out of your time. In 40 hours, those coworkers made more than I did in 60 hours. I understood the game. Artie's Corner. Ask yourself, if I invest in education, will this allow me to make a living without killing myself? Don't chase degrees for pride. Pursue knowledge that becomes the foundation for freedom. Chapter 9. Bad Marriage and Financial Chaos. The wrong partner will multiply your struggles. The right partner will multiply your strength. Marriage can be the most significant investment or the heaviest liability. Who you choose to walk with will either build or bury your legacy. I saw this truth clearly in my own life. When my wife and I were still just friends, she supported my vision. I remember being broke and hungry, and she quietly bought me food without ever making me feel ashamed. When I decided to move to Dallas, she believed in me even though I didn't have a fully laid out plan. She raised money, helped me move, and stood by me as I tried to rebuild. Later, when I wanted to go back home to see my family, she gathered what she could and made it happen. And when I decided to return to school, she was right there, walking with me into the registration office, ensuring I didn't back out. She wasn't just a partner, she was an ally. Every significant step I've taken, she has poured into me, and I know that many of the things I'm doing now wouldn't exist without her. But I've also seen the other side. Friends of mine weren't as fortunate. I knew men who married wrong, and the cost was brutal. One ended up divorced, tied to years of child support that drained every paycheck. He inherited money, thinking marriage would mean building together. But his wife spent it on flashy cars, clothes, and status symbols until nothing was left. The wealth meant for their family's future vanished in smoke. These aren't isolated stories. Too many immigrants rush into marriage without thinking about the long-term consequences. Sometimes it's pressure from family, loneliness, or a lack of stability. But marriage without vision isn't stability. It's chaos waiting to happen. The truth is this: your spouse doesn't just share your life. They share your finances, your dreams, your burdens. If they don't believe in your vision and only think about today instead of tomorrow, you're building a house on sand. I thank God every day for my wife. She taught me that the right partner multiplies your strength, but watching my friends reminded me that the wrong partner multiplies your struggles. Oh, Artie's Corner. If you're single, ask yourself, does this person believe in my vision or only in my comfort? If you're married, ask, are we building together or tearing down separately? Remember, marriage is not just about love. It is about alignment. Chapter 10. No will or life insurance. If you don't plan for your family's future, poverty will plan it for them. In our communities, death is one of the most avoided conversations. We love to celebrate life, but we hate to prepare for its end. Many immigrants, especially, carry this mindset. Why think about death? God will protect us. But the truth is, not preparing doesn't stop death from coming. It only makes the consequences worse for the people we leave behind. I've seen it firsthand. Families torn apart, not just by grief, but by financial chaos. A man dies without a will, and suddenly his children are fighting over scraps. Brothers stop speaking to each other. Wives and in-laws go to war over property. The legacy of the man is forgotten, replaced by bitterness. I've also seen families lose everything because there was no life insurance. One father passed away suddenly, and within weeks, his wife was drowning in bills. The house was repossessed. The children were pulled from the life they knew and thrown into survival mode. It wasn't just grief. It was a generational setback. And yet, these are avoidable tragedies. A will is not complicated, and life insurance doesn't have to be expensive. But because we avoid the conversation and tell ourselves, "I'll get to it later," we leave our families unprotected. While we're here, there's another truth people don't like to discuss: timing when it comes to having kids. I don't say this to get into people's personal business. I know relationships end, and life doesn't always go as planned. Kids are beautiful. They are joy, love, and legacy. But in America, kids are also expensive. Every stage of raising a child here demands money and time, from diapers to daycare, medical bills to education. Reality can be draining if you don't have a support system. There are no breaks, no time off. Work, school, sleepless nights, and endless bills can push you to the edge. Couples who loved each other deeply begin to break under the pressure because they weren't prepared. The love was still there, but the exhaustion was stronger. That's why timing matters. If you can, ensure you have the basics before bringing children into the world: a steady income, a safe home, health insurance, and a little savings. These things won't make parenthood easy. It's never easy, but they will make the transition less brutal. They will allow you to enjoy your kids instead of just surviving them. Children deserve more than love. They deserve stability. Parents deserve more than survival. They deserve peace of mind. That only comes when planning meets responsibility. Legacy isn't just about wills and insurance. It's also about the timing and preparation that ensures your family thrives instead of struggles. Artie's Corner. Think about the family you want to build or the one you already have. Are you preparing for tomorrow or just living in today? Legacy isn't just about what you leave behind. It's about how you plan the journey while you're here. Chapter 11. Escaping the Cycle. Sometimes breaking the cycle means risking everything you have left. I reached a point where I felt stuck. I was working at a gas station, making just enough to stay alive but not enough to move forward. My Jaguar had died, and without a car, I felt trapped in one state, with no real jobs or opportunities around me. Every day felt like a repeat of the last. Long hours, low pay, and no light at the end of the tunnel. I began to dream of leaving. At first it was Maryland, then Pennsylvania, but eventually Texas stood out to me. A friend there said I could stay with him for a few weeks while I found my footing. I thought about it repeatedly, the idea burning in my mind like a spark. One day, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I asked my boss for a raise, hoping it would allow me to buy a reliable car. He looked me in the eye, promised he'd see what he could do. But deep down, I knew it was just talk. Weeks passed, nothing changed. That's when I told myself, I'll be stuck here forever if I don't act now. So I took my whole paycheck, $550, and went to a buy here, pay here lot. The place was no luxury dealership. The cars were older and worn down, the kind most people would overlook. But to me, each one represented possibility. With $500 down, I drove away in a Nissan SV. The car wasn't pretty, but it moved, and that's all I needed. I filled the tank, packed my belongings, and called my friend. I'm coming to Texas. I had about $50 left in my pocket. That was it. I had no backup plan or savings, just faith, hunger, and the refusal to stay stuck. The drive was long. Hour after hour, the road stretched in front of me. Every mile felt like a gamble. If the car broke down, I ran out of money, and my friend changed his mind. Everything could fall apart. But fear didn't sit with me that day. Execution did. For once, I wasn't waiting for life to change. I was forcing it to. When I arrived in Texas, my friend welcomed me. I slept on his floor for weeks, using my bag as a pillow, but I didn't care. I felt like I had taken control for the first time in years. I got a job at a gas station in Sherman, but I wasn't planning to stay there. I had my eyes set on Dallas. Opportunity is bigger in the city, and I knew that's where I needed to be. I applied for jobs, and one day, I found an opening at a semiconductor company. I didn't know much about the field, but knew how to work, endure, and learn. When they hired me, it felt like the cycle had finally cracked. That job gave me the stability to move to Dallas. It gave me the chance to stand on my feet again. It wasn't the end of the journey, but the beginning of a new one. Looking back, that $550 wasn't just money. It was a seed. And my decision to risk everything on that Nissan SV was when I stopped surviving and started building. Artie's Corner. What cycle are you stuck in right now? Are you waiting for someone to allow you to leave? Or are you ready to risk what little you have to change your story? Remember, sometimes the smallest steps carry you the farthest. Chapter 12. Transition. From pitfalls to pillars. Wisdom is not just avoiding mistakes, but building systems that outlast you. By reaching Texas, I had lived through almost every mistake an immigrant could make in America. I had felt the sting of bad credit, the weight of hunger, the trap of debt, the embarrassment of appearances, and the pain of watching others collapse under rushed marriages, flashy cars, meaningless degrees, and houses they couldn't afford. Those years were my classroom. The streets, the jobs, the sleepless nights, the empty pockets became my teachers. And each pitfall, though painful, taught me a lesson that would prepare me for what came next. But here's the truth. You cannot build wealth by avoiding mistakes alone. Survival may keep you alive, but it does not create a legacy. If all you do is dodge traps, you will remain stuck in fear, always looking down at what to avoid instead of what to build. That's when I realized I needed pillars, foundations, systems strong enough to hold me when storms came, because storms always come. Part 1 of this book showed you the pitfalls, the traps that keep us stuck, broke, and frustrated. But now we move into Part 2. The pillars. These are the timeless principles that every immigrant, every dreamer, every builder needs. The pillars don't just help you survive, they give you the structure to grow, thrive, and leave something behind. Chapter 13. Budgeting, the foundation of freedom. A budget is not a cage. It is the map that leads you to freedom. When I first came to America, I thought freedom meant spending money however I wanted. After all, wasn't this the land of opportunity? But I learned quickly that in America, if you don't tell your money where to go, it disappears. Rent, food, gas, bills, your paycheck evaporates, and you're left wondering where it went. Budgeting was the first pillar I had to build. Not because I loved numbers, but because without a budget, my money controlled me instead of me controlling it. I remember weeks when I worked long hours, cashed my check, and broke before the next payday. It wasn't because I didn't earn anything. I didn't have a plan. One small purchase here, another there, and suddenly the money was gone. It felt like trying to carry water in my hands. No matter how tightly I squeezed, it slipped through. I learned that a budget is not about restriction, but direction. It's like driving across the country. You wouldn't start the car without a map. You wouldn't just hope to arrive. Yet so many of us live our financial lives that way. No map, no plan, just hope. And hope is not a strategy. Budgeting gave me clarity. It showed me what I truly had and where it was really going. It forced me to ask hard questions. Did I need that extra subscription? Did I need to eat out, or could I cook at home and save? Did I need to buy new clothes, or was I trying to impress people who weren't paying my bills? And here's the truth. Budgeting is especially critical for immigrants. Many of us come here and immediately face pressure. We send money back home. We want to dress well so people don't think we're struggling. We want to post pictures that make us look successful. But without a budget, those choices become chains. You think you're showing strength, but you're building weakness. When I learned to budget, my money stopped being a source of stress and became a tool. Even if the budget was small, it gave me power. It told me what I could afford, what I needed to cut, and how much I could save for the future. It wasn't about saying no to life, but saying yes to freedom. To Artie's Corner. Do you know exactly where your last paycheck went? If not, you're driving without a map. Take 1 hour this week, write down your income and expenses, and give your money an assignment. Remember, if you don't command your money, someone else will. Chapter 14. Saving, protecting your tomorrow. If you eat all your harvest today, don't be surprised when hunger greets you tomorrow. When I was homeless, saving wasn't even a thought. Every dollar I had was for survival food, gas, and the next bill. But as I began to stabilize, I realized something. Survival keeps you alive today, but saving keeps you alive tomorrow. Without it, every problem becomes a crisis. I'll never forget the first time my car broke down after I'd started working steadily. The mechanic quoted me the price and my heart sank. I didn't have the money. I had to borrow, juggle bills, and sacrifice to get back on the road. That day taught me that emergencies don't care about your situation. They show up uninvited, and if you're not ready, they will drag you backwards. That's why saving became my second pillar. Not because I suddenly had plenty, but because I learned that even the smallest savings created breathing room. $10 here, $20 there. At first it felt pointless, like a drop of water in an ocean. But little by little, it grew. And when the next emergency came, I wasn't begging or borrowing. I was ready. For immigrants, saving is another challenge. We don't just save for ourselves, but for family back home, emergencies overseas, and cultural obligations. Sometimes we feel guilty for holding money when someone else is in need. But I learned I'll always remain trapped if I give everything away and never keep anything for tomorrow. Saving isn't selfish. It's responsible. It protects not just you, but the people who depend on you. The truth is, saving isn't about the amount. It's about the habit. A person who saves $20 out of $200 is more disciplined than someone who makes $2,000 and saves nothing. Saving builds muscle, and that muscle will carry you when bigger opportunities come. And here's the part people miss. Saving doesn't just prepare you for emergencies. It positions you for opportunities. When an investment comes, a business idea opens, or property goes on sale, you can't step in without savings. That's when I realized that saving isn't just protecting your tomorrow. It's buying your tomorrow. Artie's Corner. Are you only surviving, or are you protecting your future? This week, start with what you can. $5, $10, $20. The amount doesn't matter. The habit does. Remember, saving is not about being rich. It's about refusing to be caught unprepared. Chapter 15. Credit, the gatekeeper of opportunity. In America, your signature is worth more than your sweat if your credit is strong. When I first came to America, I thought hard work alone would be enough. If I worked more hours, I would get ahead. But I learned quickly that credit is as powerful as cash, sometimes more powerful in this system. I know because I lived the other side. I had bad credit. Missed payments, desperate loans, mistakes made in survival mode, they all followed me like shadows. When I wanted a car, the bank didn't see a hard-working immigrant. They saw risk. The only loan I got was at 29% interest, and it locked me in chains. Later, when I dreamed of starting a business, I researched first-time entrepreneur loans. They were everywhere, opportunities waiting to be claimed. But when I applied, the system shut me out. Not because my ideas weren't good or because I wasn't capable, but because my credit score told a different story. Doors that opened for others slammed in my face. That's when I realized that opportunity is tied to your credit in America. I saw the contrast in friends who had good credit. They walked into banks and got lines of credit with ease. They bought cars with single-digit interest rates. Some leveraged their credit to buy properties or start businesses. Their hard work wasn't heavier than mine. The difference was that they had built the key that unlocked doors. I had not. Credit in America is not about showing off. It's not about swiping cards for clothes or dinners. It's about access. It's about leverage. With good credit, you borrow at a low cost to build wealth. With bad credit, you borrow at high cost and stay broke. That's why credit became my third pillar. I learned that protecting your credit is protecting your future. Pay your bills on time. Keep your balances low. Use credit to build, not to impress. Because one day, the score you protect will protect you. This is critical for immigrants especially. We often come with nothing, and credit becomes our first bridge. It can either carry us into opportunity or drag us deeper into survival. The choice is in how we use it. Artie's Corner. What does your credit say about you right now? Is it opening doors or closing them? Remember, your credit score is not just a number. It is your reputation in the financial world. Guard it like you guard your name. Investing. Making your money work. If you always trade time for money, you'll run out of time before you run out of needs. For years, I worked long hours at gas stations, warehouses, and on night shifts. My body was in the grind, but my money wasn't working. And that's when I realized that if I don't move my money, I'll be stuck working until my last breath. Investing became the fourth pillar. How to make money serve me instead of vice versa. 15A. The stock market. Owning pieces of the future. The stock market is not just about numbers, about owning pieces of tomorrow. The first time I heard about the stock market, it sounded like a game for the rich. Wall Street, suits, charts, billions of dollars moving around. What did that have to do with me, a broke immigrant trying to survive? But then I learned the truth. Every company we buy from, such as Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Tesla, offers a chance for ownership. The same brands we give our money to can also provide us with wealth if we own a piece of them. Stocks are simply ownership. If the company grows, your money grows with it. I remember watching a friend who started small with stocks. While we were working overtime, he was putting $50 here and $100 there into companies he believed in. At first, it seemed pointless, so little money compared to the vast market. But over time, I saw his portfolio grow. The discipline of investing regularly turned his small contributions into thousands. The stock market taught me patience. It's not about chasing hype or trying to time every wave. It's about consistency. Too many people treat it like a casino, jumping in and out based on fear or excitement. But real wealth in stocks comes from holding on to good companies long enough to let them grow. Look at NVIDIA. A few years ago, it was just another chip company for most people. But the ones who looked deeper saw something different. The future of artificial intelligence, gaming, and high-performance computing. They didn't need to be fancy. They didn't need to gamble. They bought shares of a company that was building the tools of tomorrow. And what happened? In just a few years, NVIDIA's stock skyrocketed. People who invested early, even modestly, saw their money multiply. A $1,000 investment turned into tens of thousands. A consistent, disciplined investor, someone putting in $50 or $100 regularly, could suddenly look back and realize they had built wealth while others were still talking about waiting for the right time. This is the lesson. Sometimes the most significant opportunities are right before us. AI, renewable energy, and healthcare innovation are not fads. They are the future. And the companies building the future will reward those who believe in them early. And here's the part immigrants especially need to hear. The stock market is one of the easiest ways to build wealth in America, but we often ignore it. We send money home. We buy cars. We spend to look successful. Meanwhile, the system is designed to benefit those who invest. The market rewards you over time if you put money in consistently, even small amounts. The lesson is simple. Don't just be a consumer. Be an owner. If you can buy the product, you can also buy the stock. One gives you temporary pleasure, and the other builds long-term wealth. Artie's Corner. What future are you ignoring right now? AI, green energy, biotech? Tomorrow is being built today. You don't need to be rich to invest. You need to be consistent. Remember, wealth doesn't come from luck. It comes from planting seeds in the right soil and giving them time to grow. 15b. Real estate, turning shelter into wealth. A house you live in is a shelter. A house you rent out is wealth. Real estate is one of the oldest wealth builders in the world. People need somewhere to live, always. That truth never changes. But not all real estate is created equal. I've seen friends rush into buying houses to look successful. They stretched themselves too thin, and the house became a chain, not an asset. But I've also seen people who waited, saved, and bought with strategy. They started small, maybe a duplex, living in one unit and renting out the other. That rent paid the mortgage, and suddenly they had shelter and an income stream. Real estate is powerful because it can create cash flow, monthly rent, and appreciation, long-term value. But it only works if you treat it as an investment, not a trophy. The key lesson is timing and purpose. Buy when you are ready, and buy what can pay you back. Artie's Corner. Ask yourself, is the house I dream of going to pay or drain me? Real estate should add to your income, not just your image. 15c. Businesses, building engines of income. A job feeds you. A business frees you. Every immigrant I know has dreamed of starting a business. It's part of our DNA. We don't come here to survive. We come to build. But too many jump in without preparation, and their businesses collapse under pressure. I've learned that business works when it solves a real problem. Don't chase trends. Don't copy unthinkingly. Look around. What do people need in your community? Where are they spending money already? That's where opportunity hides. The beauty of America is that you don't need to be rich to start. You can begin small, selling a service, reselling products, or even starting online. The key is discipline. Reinvest your profits, keep your expenses low, and build step by step. A business is not a lottery ticket. It is an engine. Build it slowly, and one day, it will run without you. Artie's Corner. What problem can you solve that people will gladly pay for? That's your business idea. Don't chase hype. Try to solve needs. 15D. Partnerships and franchises. Expanding through others. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Not everyone has the skills to run a business alone, and that's okay. Wealth can also be built through partnerships and franchises. I've seen people who had capital but no skills. Instead of wasting money, they partnered with someone with the skills but no funding. Together, they built something bigger than either could have done alone. That's the power of partnership. One brings money, the other brings knowledge, and both share the reward. Franchises are another path. They let you tap into a proven system. You're not reinventing the wheel. You're buying a wheel that already spins. It costs money up front, but it reduces risk. Think about restaurants, delivery businesses, and cleaning services. Franchises give ordinary people a chance to step into ownership with support. Partnerships and franchises remind us that wealth doesn't always come from solo effort. Sometimes, it comes from humility, joining forces with others. It's Artie's Corner. Do you have money but no plan? Or a plan but no money? Look for partnerships. Wealth grows faster when you connect strength to strength. 15E. Other vehicles. Diversifying your future. Don't put all your seeds in one field. Storms don't ask for permission. Investing is not one size fits all. Beyond stocks, real estate, and businesses, other vehicles can grow your wealth. Bonds, index funds, ETFs, and emerging fields like renewable energy or biotech. The goal is not to chase everything. It's to diversify. Storms always come. Markets crash, housing dips, and businesses fail. But one storm won't wipe you out if you've spread your investments. This is especially important for immigrants. We don't have generational wealth to fall back on. We are the first generation building the foundation, so protecting it through diversification is not optional for survival. Artie's Corner. Take a look at your money. Is it all in one basket? Ask yourself, if that basket fell today, what would be left? Diversify before life forces you to. Chapter 16. The Mindset, the pillar that holds all pillars. Your outer world will never rise above your inner world. When people ask me what separates those who survive from those who build, my answer is always the same. Mindset. You can have all the opportunities in America, but if your mind is not ready, they will slip through your hands. I've seen it in my own journey. There were moments when hunger, homelessness, and shame could have broken me. But the mindset I carried, the belief that my situation was temporary, that my struggle had meaning, kept me moving forward. Faith gave me direction, but mindset gave me fuel. 1. From survival to strategy. Most immigrants arrive in survival mode. We work the most extended hours, take the most challenging jobs, and do whatever it takes to pay rent. There is honor in that. But survival alone is not enough. If you stay in survival mode too long, it becomes a prison. The mindset shift comes when you ask, how do I turn this energy into strategy? Instead of just working for money, how can I make money work for me? Instead of saying, I can't afford this, ask, how can I afford this? Strategy turns exhaustion into progress. 2. Discipline over desire. The mindset of discipline is one of the hardest but most important. In America, temptation is everywhere. Cars, clothes, gadgets, and entertainment. If you live by desire, you'll always be broke. I learned this when I was sleeping in my Jaguar. The car gave me pride for a moment, but it cost me dearly. Desire can buy you an image, but only discipline can buy you freedom. Discipline is saying no to what feels good today, so you can say yes to what lasts tomorrow. 3. Faith with action. Mindset is not just about logic, it's also about faith. But faith must be accompanied by action. I've seen too many people sit in church praying for blessings while avoiding responsibility. They ask God for wealth but ignore budgeting. They fast for miracles but refuse to show up on time at work. Faith without works is dead. Genuine faith says, I believe God will bless me so that I will prepare my budget. I believe in opportunity, so I will work and save for it. I believe in the future so that I will discipline myself today. 4. Resilience in the storms. Mindset is tested not when things are easy, but when life falls apart. When I walked an hour on an empty stomach to collect $50 and found the store closed, I had a choice. Quit or try again the next day. That walk, repeated in pain, taught me resilience. Every immigrant faces storms, job loss, rejection, debt, and loneliness. The question is not whether storms will come. The question is, will your mindset hold or will it collapse? Resilience allows you to bend without breaking. 5. Abundance versus scarcity. The mindset of scarcity says, there's not enough. If someone else wins, I lose. Scarcity makes you hoard, envy, and fear. Abundance says, there's more than enough. If someone else wins, it shows what's possible for me too. When I saw friends succeed in IT or real estate, scarcity could have made me bitter. Instead, abundance inspired me. Their success proved what was possible. That shift in mindset, envy into inspiration, kept me building instead of complaining. 6. Legacy over lifestyle. Finally, mindset is about the long game. Too many people chase lifestyle cars, clothes, vacations, while ignoring legacy. Lifestyle dies with you. Legacy outlives you. The mindset of legacy asks, what will my children inherit? Am I building something that lasts beyond me? That's why I emphasize wills, insurance, and pillars. Real success is not measured in what you drive, but in what you leave behind. Closing reflection. Mindset is the soil in which every pillar grows. Without it, budgeting feels like punishment, saving feels like deprivation, credit feels like chains, and investing feels like gambling. But with the right mindset, each pillar becomes a tool for freedom. The immigrant journey is not just about surviving in a new land. It's about transforming your mind so you can build, multiply, and leave a legacy. Artie's Corner. Where is your mindset today? Survival, scarcity, or legacy? Be honest, because the life you build will never rise above the thoughts you allow. Shift your mind, and everything else will follow. Conclusion. From survival to legacy. The journey is not about where you started. It's about what you build along the way. When I first arrived in America, I was just another immigrant trying to survive. I had a lot of dreams, but not enough tools to materialize them. I faced bad credit, empty pockets, and the shame of looking successful while feeling broken inside. But every struggle taught me something. The streets taught me resilience. The jobs taught me discipline. The mistakes taught me wisdom. And the people, both those who helped me and those who failed me, taught me perspective. Part 1 of this book showed you the pitfalls, the traps that pull us down. Bad credit, rushed marriages, flashy cars, meaningless degrees, debt without discipline, houses bought too early, and shortcuts that steal futures. But Part 2 revealed the pillars and the foundations that lift us: budgeting, saving, credit, investing, and mindset. These are not theories. They are tools. They are the same tools I used and the same tools you can use no matter where you start. And that's the truth I want you to carry. Where you begin doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're broke, hungry, in debt, or starting late. What matters is that you build pillars strong enough to outlast the storms. What matters is that you don't just survive, you make something worth leaving behind. For immigrants like me, the temptation is always to look successful, buy a car, clothes, and a house, and silence the voices back home. But survival dressed as success is still survival. Legacy, on the other hand, is silent but powerful. It shows in your children's lives, the protection of your family, and the freedom of knowing that poverty has no claim on your name anymore. My story is not finished, and neither is yours. You can build pillars wherever you are, hungry, tired, trapped, or just beginning. You can build wealth. You can build legacy. In the end, this journey is not just about us. It is about the generations that will come after us. And when they stand on the pillars we built, they will see further than we ever could. And that I call legacy. Artie's Final Corner. What will they say about you when you are gone? Did you survive or build? The choice is yours. Start today. Build your pillars. Leave your legacy.